Explained government leverage in vaccine pricing. Supreme Court has noted that different manufacturers are quoting different prices for COVID-19 vaccines and told government it has powers under the Drugs Control Act and Patients Act that it can employ. What are these provisions? During the hearing on issues related to the pandemic on Tuesday, the Supreme Court flagged differential pricing for vaccines and directed the central government to clarify in its affidavit the basis and rationale for pricing. One of the three judges on the bench of Justice Ravindra Bhatt called on Solicitor General Tushar Mehta to explore legislative measures to address this issue. There are powers under the Drugs Control Acts and Patients Act. This is pandemic and a national crisis. If this is not the time to invoke such powers, what is the time? Justice Bhatt said. The court noted that different manufacturers are quoting different prices. How does the government regulate the pricing of drugs? To ensure accessibility, the pricing of essential drugs is regulated centrally through Essential Commodities Act 1955. Under Section 3 of the Act, the government has enacted the drugs order. The DPCO lists over 800 drugs as essential in its schedule and has capped their prices. The capping of prices is done based on formula that is worked out in each case by the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, which was set up in 1997. Can the government regulate the price of COVID-19 vaccines through DPCO? Regulations through DPCO is not applicable for patented drugs or fixed dose combination drugs. This is why the pricing of the antiviral drug remdesivir, which is currently in great demand for the treatment of serious cases of COVID-19, is not regulated by the government. Last week, a notification by the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers said that on the intervention of the government, major marketers of the remdesivir injection had reported voluntary reduction in the maximum retail price. Globally, the American biotechnology firm Gilead Sciences owns the patent for drugs. Several pharma companies have obtained a license for Gilead to manufacture remdesivir. To bring vaccines or drugs used in the treatment of COVID-19 such as remdesivir under the DPCO policy, an amendment can be brought. What legal avenues are available for the government to address differential pricing for vaccines? The Patents Act 1970, the law which was mentioned by the Supreme Court, has two key provisions that could be potentially invoked to regulate the pricing of the vaccine. Section 100 of the Patents Act gives central government the power to authorize anyone to use the invention for the purpose of government. This provision enables the government to license the patents of the vaccine to specific companies to speed up the manufacturing and ensure equitable pricing. Under Section 92 of the Act, which deals with compulsory licensing, the government can, without the permission of the patent holder, license the patent under specific circumstances prescribed in the Act. If the central government is satisfied in the respect of any patent in force, circumstances of national emergency or in circumstances of extreme emergency or in case of public non-commercial use, that it is necessary that compulsory licenses should be granted at any time after the sealing thereof to work the invention. It may take a declaration to the effect by notification in the official gazette, and thereupon the following provision shall have effect. The provision says, after the government issues a notification under Section 92, pharma companies can approach the government for a license to start manufacturing by reverse engineering the product. However, in the case of biological vaccines like COVID-19, even though ingredients and processes are well known, it is difficult to duplicate the process from scratch. The process will also entail new clinical trials to establish safety and efficacy, which makes compulsory licensing less attractive. The World Health Organization is working to expand the capacity of low and middle income countries to produce COVID-19 vaccines and scale up manufacturing to increase global access to them. On April 16, it invited expression of interest to enable transfer of technology and appropriate knowing how to existing or new manufacturers in LMICs to enable them to develop and produce COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. The Epidemic Diseases Act 1897. Another legal route suggested by experts to regulate the pricing of vaccines is the Epidemic Disease Act. This has been the main legal weapon for the government in dealing with the pandemic. Section 2 of this law gives the government power to take special measures and prescribe regulation as to dangerous epidemic disease. The provision reads, when at any time the state government is satisfied that the state or any part thereof is visited by or threatened with an outbreak of any dangerous epidemic disease, the state government, if it thinks that the ordinary provisions of the law for the time being in force are insufficient for the purpose, may take or require or empower any person to take such measures and by public notice prescribe such temporary regulations to be observed by the public or by any person or class of persons as it shall deem unnecessary to prevent the outbreak of such diseases or the spread thereof, and may determine in what manner and by whom any expenses incurred shall be defrayed. These broad undefined powers can be used to take measures to regulate pricing. However, the law lacks the teeth to implement such an important policy framework. Violation of the Act penalized under Section 188 of the Indian Penal Code, which deals with disobedience to order duly promulgated by public servant. The punishment prescribed under this law is imprisonment up to 6 months or a fine that could extend up to Rs 1,000. Apart from these legislative options, experts suggest that the central government procuring directly from manufacturers could be the most beneficial route to ensure equitable pricing. As the sole purchaser, it will have greater bargaining power. Thank you.